Good morning, students. In this class we are going to discuss about chapter 6 anatomy of flowering plants, and we are going to discuss about in detail NEET and KCET level coaching part MCQs in this video. Let us begin today's session. First question: a radial vascular bundle is one where xylem and phloem are present. First option, arranged one above another. Second option, one above the other with xylem on the upper side and phloem on the lower side. Third option, one above the other with phloem on the upper side and xylem on the lower side. Fourth option, alternatively arranged. So the correct answer for this question is fourth option, alternatively arranged. So the radial vascular bundles arranged alternatively to each other. So this concept we had a discussion in previous class about radial vascular bundles. So here there is a short information regarding this radial vascular bundles. Let's discuss in detail. When the xylem and phloem within a vascular bundle are arranged within an alternate manner on different radii, the arrangement is called radial, such as in roots. Understand? So those vascular bundles are called as radial vascular bundles, arranged alternate to each other, presence in different radii. Clear? Then second question, if xylem and phloem are on the same radius, then it is called option 1 radial vascular bundle, second one collateral and conjoint, third one separate vascular bundles, and fourth one mosaic. Then let us see correct answer. So the correct answer for this question is option 2 collateral conjoint vascular bundles. So then I will tell you one more important explanation for this. In conjoint type of vascular bundles, the xylem and phloem are situated at the same radius of vascular bundles. Such vascular bundles are common in stems and leaves. Understand? So the conjoint vascular bundles are usually have the phloem located only on the outer side of the xylem. Is this clear? Then next, let us go to third question. Steel has the following parts. Let's see options. Option 1 pericycle, option 2 vascular bundle, option 3 medulla, and option 4 all. So the correct answer for this question is option 4 all of the above. Steel has the following parts such as pericycle, vascular bundles, and medulla. So next, one more important explanation for this. All tissues on the inner side of the endodermis, such as pericycle, vascular bundles, and pith, constitute the steel. Got it, everybody? So this concept we had a discussion in previous class. Hope you remembered it. Next, another question. The number of vascular bundles in the dicot root is generally first option 4, second option many, and third option more than 8, and fourth option only 1. The correct answer for this question is 4. So let me explain this one in detail. So students, in previous class we had a discussion about this one very clearly. So here generally one important phenomenon can be noticed. The tangential as well as radial walls of the endodermal cells have a deposition of water impermeable waxy materials suberin in the form of Casparian stripes. Then here one more connecting point to be discussed here. The parenchymatous cells which lie between the xylem and the phloem are called conjunctive tissue. There are usually 2 to 4 xylem and phloem patches are present. Got it, everybody? So there are usually 2 to 4 xylem and phloem patches are present. Later a cambium ring develops between the xylem and phloem, right? So this is explanation for this question. Hope you understood. Now let's move to fifth question. A special character of endodermal cell wall is, let us see options. Option 1, lignin deposition. Option 2, suberin deposition. Option 3, both 1 and 2. Option 4, pectin deposition. Now let us see correct option for this question. The correct option for this question is option 3, both 1 and 2. Clear? Then let us see explanation for this question. The innermost layer of the cortex is called endodermis. It comprises a single layer of barrel-shaped cells without any intercellular spaces, and the tangential as well as radial walls of the endodermal cells have a deposition of water impermeable and waxy material called suberin in the form of Casparian stripes. Got it? Then next, sixth question. The root hair is a part of, let's see options. Option 1, epidermis. Option 2, cortex. Option 3, endodermis. Option 4, pericycle. Can you guess the correct answer? So here the correct answer is absolutely right. It is nothing but epidermis. So here let us discuss about this root hairs part in detail. Students, the most important point to be discussed here about root hairs. Generally, root hairs, they are the projections of the epidermis. Projections of the epidermis. Here they are vary in shape and structure between one dicotyledonous root to a second monocotyledonous root. Let us see one important point about it. Many of the epidermal cells protrude in the form of unicellular root hairs. So they are forming from outermost layer epidermis. Understand? So this is very important point. Please make a note. Next, seventh question. The parenchyma tissue present between xylem and phloem in the root anatomy is, option 1, ground tissue. Option 2, conjunctive tissue. Option 3, medullary rays. Option 4, medulla. Let's see correct answer for this question. So correct answer for seventh question is option 2, conjunctive tissue. Let me explain in detail regarding this conjunctive tissue. Students, you know, the pith is small and inconspicuous. The parenchyma cells which lie between the xylem and the phloem are called conjunctive tissue. So this is the proper explanation for conjunctive tissue, right? Then next, another question, eighth question. Medulla is well developed in, let us see options. Option 1, monocot root. Option 2, dicot stem. Option 3, both 1 and 2. Option 4, monocot stem. So the correct answer, let's check now. Option 3 is correct now for this question. It means both 1 and 2. So here, students, medulla is well developed. Let us have a talk about it. So this is, medulla is well developed. It is developed in monocot root and as well as in dicot stem. Got it? Then here one more important question. Next question, ninth question. Lateral roots arise from the option 1 pericycle of the stem, option 2 endodermis of the root, option 3 epidermis of the root, option 4 pericycle of the root. Now the correct answer for this question is option 4 epidermis of the root. So here students, lateral roots arises from the generally epidermis of the root only. Is it clear? So as we learn, epidermis is the outermost layer and many of the epidermal cells protrude in the form of unicellular root heads, and the lateral branches also arises from the epidermal cells only. Got it? Then next move to another question. 10th question. Conjunctive tissue produces cambium only in, let us see options. Option 1 dicot root, option 2 monocot root, option 3 dicot stem, option 4 monocot stem. So the correct answer is option 1 dicot root. Now let us see a detailed explanation regarding this one. Conjunctive tissue. We had a discussion previously for another question. Now let's have a discussion once again. Initiation of lateral roots and vascular cambium during the secondary growth takes place in these pericycle cells. The pith is small and inconspicuous. The parenchymatous cells which lie between the xylem and the phloem are called conjunctive tissue. So there are usually 2 to 4 xylem and phloem patches are present here in this dicot root. Okay, now students, let's move to 11th question. Equal number of stomata on both surfaces are seen in option 1 monocot leaf, option 2 dicot leaf, option 3 dicot stem, option 4 monocot stem. So here the correct answer for this question is option 1 monocot leaf. Let us see some detailed explanation regarding this one. The anatomy of isobilateral leaf is similar to the anatomical structure of dorsiventral leaf in many ways. So monocotyledonous leaf is called as isobilateral leaf. Example for this characteristic like rice plant, Oryza sativa is the scientific name. Next, wheat, scientific name is Triticum aestivum. Gia maize is the scientific name for sweet corn. In these plants we can see one similar characteristics. It means either sides, upper epidermis and lower epidermis. Upper epidermis is called adaxial epidermis, whereas lower epidermis called abaxial epidermis has equal number of stomata. So this is a significant characteristic which can be seen in monocots only, exclusively absent this phenomenon in dicots. Is it clear? Then let us move to 12th question. Special cells present in the upper epidermal of monocot leaf which shows turgidity and flaccidity are option 1 bundle sheath cells, option 2 bulliform cells, option 3 upper epidermal cells, option 4 lower epidermal cells. Now let us see correct explanation and answer for this question. The correct answer is first of all bulliform cells. Now let us see explanation for this one. This is very important point. In plants like grasses and of course maize and wheat, rice, etc., certain adaxial epidermal cells, it means upper epidermal cells, the veins modify themselves into large empty colorless cells. These are called bulliform cells. When the bulliform cells in the leaves have absorbed water and are turgid. The leaf surface is exposed. When they are flaccid due to water stress, they makes the leaves curl in to minimize the water loss. So here, this is the correct explanation for this bulliform cells. Next, another question. 13th question. The main function of bulliform cells is option 1, exposing the lamina, option 2, rolling the leaf during turgidity, option 3, rolling and unrolling of leaf, option 4, unrolling of leaf during flaccidity. So the correct answer for this question is option 3, rolling and unrolling of leaf. So how it is possible? Let's see. So just now we had a discussion for above question, 12th question. Same explanation I just wanted to give you again. In plants like grasses and of course wheat, rice and sugar cane and etc. These plants are having special characteristics. Adaxial epidermal cells along the veins modify themselves into large sized empty and colorless cells. These are called bulliform cells, right? Then the bulliform cells perform special functions. When they are present in the leaves, have absorbed water, and when they absorb the water and they are turgid, and the leaf surface is exposing at that time because absorbing the water, right? Then when they are flaccid due to water stress, it means when there is a scarcity for water, at that time the leaves curl inwards to minimize the water loss. So they roll and as well as unroll. Is it clear? Then next question, 14th question. Mesophyll is undifferentiated in dicot leaf, 2 dicot stem, 3 monocot stem, 4 monocot leaf. So let us see correct answer for this question. Option 4 is correct, monocot leaf. So mesophyll is undifferentiated in monocot leaf. Let us see a small explanation for this question. So here in monocot leaves like rice and wheat, sugarcane, etc., one special characteristic can be seen. The stomata are present on both the surfaces of the epidermis, and the mesophyll is not differentiated into palisae and sponge parenchyma. Understand, quite opposite to dicot leaf. So now moving to next question, 15th question. Secondary growth is seen in option 1 dicot root, option 2 dicot stem, option 3 both 1 and 2, option 4 dicot and monocot stem. So the correct answer for this question is option 3, both 1 and 2. Let's discuss in detail regarding this secondary growth. Let me explain, students. The growth of the roots and stems in length with the help of apical meristem is called the primary growth. Apart from primary growth, most dicotyledonous plants exhibit an increase in girth. This increase is called secondary growth. In tissues involved in secondary growth are 2 in number. Lateral meristems. What are those lateral meristems? 2 lateral meristems. What are those? Vascular cambium and cork cambium. Understand? So here a very important point to be noticed in this one, lateral meristems exhibit secondary growth. They are as follows: vascular cambium and cork cambium. Is it clear? Then let's move to 16th question. Secondary growth in the dicot stem is due to, let's see options. First option, intrafascicular cambium. Option 2, interfascicular cambium. Option 3, cork cambium. Option 4, all of the above. Then the correct answer and explanation, let's see. The correct answer is option 4, all of the above. It means 1, 2, 3 options. Now let us see explanation for this question. In dicot stems, the cells of cambium present between primary xylem and primary phloem is called as intrafascicular cambium. Then the cells of the medullary rays adjoining these intrafascicular cambium become meristematic and form the interfascicular cambium. Thus, a continuous ring of cambium is forming. Is this clear? Then, next, one more question. Next question. Question number 17. Cambium ring is formed during secondary growth in dicot stem by the fusion of, let's see options, students. Inter and intrafascicular cambium. Option 2, interfascicular cambium and cork cambium. Option 3, intrafascicular cambium and cork cambium. Option 4, intrafascicular cambium and cork cambium. Students, this question is connected to 16th question. Let's see correct answer and explanation for this. First of all, let us see correct option for 17th question. The correct option for 17th question is option 1, inter and intrafascicular cambium. Then explanation for this, let me explain. In dicot stems, example mango, neem, tamarindus, teakwood, etc., the cells of cambium present between primary xylem and primary phloem. So this is called as one ring like structure, one layer is separating, it is nothing but called as intrafascicular cambium. So intrafascicular cambium is separating the primary xylem and primary phloem. Next, the cells of medullary rays adjoining these intrafascicular cambium become more meristematic and form the interfascicular cambium. Thus, a continuous ring of cambium is formed. Is it clear? Then, let's move to 18th question. The first step in intrastellar secondary growth is, let's see first option, production of intrafascicular cambium by dedifferentiation. Next, production of interfascicular cambium by dedifferentiation. Next, third one, production of cork cambium by dedifferentiation. Fourth one, production of interfascicular cambium by dedifferentiation and intrafascicular cambium by dedifferentiation. Now let us see correct answer for this question. Students, the correct answer for this question is, for 18th question is second one, production of interfascicular cambium by dedifferentiation. So this is most important event in dicot plants. Due to the phenomenon dedifferentiation, the interfascicular and intrastellar secondary growth is happening. So here dedifferentiation, it means production of cells by a process called cell division, right? Then the 19th question, the cambium formed during extrastellar secondary growth is, first option intrafascicular cambium, second one interfascicular cambium, third one fascicular cambium, fourth one, last one, cork cambium. So let's see correct answer and explanation for this question. The correct answer is cork cambium, option 4. Then explanation. Let us see a detailed explanation for 19th question. Cork cambium. So here, as the stem continues to increase in girth due to the activity of vascular cambium, the outermost cortical and epidermal cell layers get broken and need to be replaced to provide new protective cell layers. Hence, sooner or later, another meristematic tissue is forming called cork cambium or pelogen develops. Cork cambium is also called pelogen, is developing soon after the broken cells replacement. Next, last question. During the secondary growth, the newly formed meristems are option 1 interfascicular cambium, option 2 cork cambium, option 3 both 1 and 2, option 4 intrafascicular cambium. So the correct answer for this question, for the last question, option 3. So option 3 both 1 and 2. So during secondary growth, the newly formed meristems are interfascicular cambium and as well cork cambium also. So here explanation for this question. Here in the previous class we had a discussion. Let's see once again. The cells of medullary rays adjoining these intrafascicular cambium becomes meristematic and forms the interfascicular cambium. Thus a continuous ring of cambium is forming. Clear? So students, with this I conclude this session. Thank you one and all for participation.